Well, I love this episode because we're talking about taking care of yourself. And if you're a fundraising professional, boy, I hope you get something out of this because we put a lot into it. We talked to hundreds upon hundreds of nonprofit professionals on a annual basis, helping them raise more money. But a lot of times, I mean, we even did a whole conference about this once where just talking about just being kind to yourself, being coachable, taking care of yourself, realizing that consistency trumps talent every day of the week. And it's understanding that, outcomes are great and wins are great. Losses are inevitable. Setbacks are inevitable, but not ride the roller coaster. Really, really train ourselves and condition ourselves to not ride that emotional roller coaster, not get too high and not get too low, and just realize I know it's cliche, but being process driven over outcome. Outcome is very ephemeral. Even if you're the Olympic champion in any given sport or what have you, or if you're the fastest person on earth, you cross that tape, it only lasts for that long and then it's on to the next, right? So just understanding those things are very, very short lived and understanding that you're your special somebody. So I hope everyone gets a lot out of this episode. I'm joined by my partner and best friend, Jason Ledlow. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Hey Nonprofits Raise More Money. You know what's funny, and I think this will weave nicely into like taking care of yourself, believing in yourself. The buzz is self-care. I'm a big believer in it, always have been. I've gone through the full maturation of like, oh my gosh, I'm so selfish because I'm doing all these things for myself. And actually what it ended up doing was giving me a tremendous amount of self-confidence and belief. And I go through plenty of self-doubt and have, consistently throughout my life. But what was interesting with my first real jobs that I had were sales jobs. And I expected that it would work out. That was the funny thing. It's like smiling for me always came really, really easy. And so I'd smile through the phone, whether it was an inbound call or an outbound call, depending on what I was doing at the time. It was a very interesting, experience for me, but I expected to have success, or I expected the calls to work out in my favor. It's very, very interesting the way I looked about that. I had a very interesting conversation with one of my best friends here in town, former professional football player. He is turning into an endurance athlete, and he's not going to, he doesn't want to go become a professional endurance athlete. He just really likes riding his bike and running and doing all these things. And we used to train together in his offseason. He's played for the 49ers. He's played for the Jets. He won more Grey Cups than any other quarterback in the Canadian Football League history. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's achieved all these things. And I was on the bike with him yesterday, and I asked him, did you ever deal with self-doubt? And I knew the answer was already going to be yes, because we were talking about, we geek out on like long distance triathlon. So we follow the top people and stuff like that. And I said, did you ever experience self-doubt? And he said, oh yeah, of course. And I was like, I have too. Was it liberating when you got to the point where you're just like, I'm not this person? And of course I had to throw the Tom Brady thing. I was like, Rick, you realize that you were never going to be Tom Brady. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, yes, but that's okay. And he's like, of course it's okay, because there's like only one of those guys. And he had a great career and all these things. It's like, I wanted to be a great salesman when I was younger and stuff. Was I going to be the best? Probably not, but that was okay. And when you get to that point where you let yourself off the hook, and we're talking about people that are high achievers and high performers and put a lot of work in, so we can talk about that too. Self-care and does involve working on yourself and being consistent and disciplined day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month, so on and so forth, right?
Well, but mostly the self-doubt winds up being the driver for a lot of people.
It can be for a lot of people. I know
if you don't have any self-doubt, that means you're a sociopath.
I also think it means that you don't
it just
want to
means
achieve enough.
Everybody I've ever met, every single successful person I've ever met, I'm talking about whether it's athletes, entrepreneurs, whatever that may be, they have that. Every one of them.
Yes.
Do they have great self-confidence? Yes. I knew a guy, he had, he was one of those people that you walk in and you just felt the energy from him. He was so you're like, oh my gosh, this guy could do anything. And he was, a billionaire and all these things. But I know that he also had times of terrible, terrible depression where he literally couldn't get out of bed. Now, these gigantic swings, I know one of my mentors is that way. You just can't help but just get charged up and run, you want to just conquer the world when you talk to him. but I also know that he had that as well. So what goes up must come down. So, there's going to be ups and downs. Okay. It just is. If you're just going like this all the time, that means you're probably on some antidepressant
Or
and
maybe you're
don't
not
even
pushing
know.
hard enough. Maybe you're not
But,
pushing hard enough. Yeah.
and I'm not downplaying anybody that's taking any of that. But my
Yeah.
point is, you're always going to have that. That self-doubt is normal. And so whenever you do have the self-doubt, go, oh yeah, I'm normal. That's why you can't make it emotional. You have to make it transactional. I'm going to sit here and make 3 phone calls.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit here and I'm going to write that letter. I'm going to send those thank you emails.
I'm going to go
All
do the
that
work.
stuff has to go, because if you're just waiting for to be patted on the head, in a reward standpoint, well, then that doesn't work very well either.
We're also talking about, we talked briefly about setbacks and how they're inevitable. I mean, we're in business.
Let me ask you. I'm gonna ask you the question. So,
Sure.
Trevor, whenever you called somebody and you would get a no, okay, let's go back to the days when you were calling. Let's just talk about we're
Sure.
a nonprofit professional and they're reaching out to people and they're trying to get the underwriting and table sales, things like that. How would you deal with that rejection?
Actually, pretty well, because of how I'm built, unfortunately. So I might not be the best.
Well, that's not unfortunate. It's fortunate.
Yeah.
So
I might not be the best person to ask. I always knew there was someone else, that I could reach out to, right? It wasn't the last person on earth that I could reach out to about this. I always knew there was something that could be gained from the conversation that would carry me through to the next. I think handling setbacks has a lot to do with a few things, mental framework. I also turn the page exceptionally quick. I do that. It's unfortunate.
You're very. Yeah, we can't ask you anymore because you're kind of a freak about that.
No, but what's interesting is that I turn the
But
page.
you are good at it. So how do you do it? I mean, what happens?
Yeah, I turn the page really, really quick on good things.
But there's you make a conscious decision to do that.
I make a conscious decision.
See, that's where I was trying to.
Yeah. Pardon me. Okay, I think this is what it boils down to. Actually, I don't ride the highs too high, and I don't ride the lows too low. You see what I'm saying? And so I think that was something that was established in me like really, really, really young. And that was just me internally. I figured that piece out. And I've noticed this as I've gotten older. And of course, like we run the company and we get in contact with so many people and we have 1,000 clients. And now I'm active in my community and all these things. And I kind of always have been, but there's been times where I just kind of like sheltered myself a little bit. I forget more, and I turn the page so quick on the great things. Like people are reminding me of things that we did together, and it's amazing. It's amazing to look back on those kinds of things. But back to the original point, yeah, I don't ride the highs too high, and I don't ride the lows too low. If you believe in what you're doing, that really helps too. Like if you're selling a good product, or if you're raising money for a mission that you care about deeply, well, then you're not going to ride the lows too low. You know what I mean? Because it's on to the next, right? That's kind of
Well, that was going to be where I was going to go.
Yeah.
It's preparation before you start is a big part of it.
Yeah.
The number one thing I'm telling somebody when somebody says no, they're not rejecting me personally. They're rejecting what I'm offering.
At the time that you're offering
it's just
it.
not. It's not it's not right for them.
Correct.
Well, if it's not right for everybody, it isn't right for anybody. So
Agreed.
it's all they're doing is just self-selection. They're just selecting not to be a part of what we're doing. The other thing is to set up properly is that realize that I'm making an invitation, and I'm talking about just in fundraising. I'm inviting somebody to participate. I'm not asking them for money. I am not asking them for money. I don't want your money. Don't need your money. Okay. Regardless of what your personal financial situation is, that's not what you're doing. They're not giving it to you. It's for the organization. I'm just helping. And if you do believe in that organization and then you frame it up that way, but it's also okay to take a break. We talk about taking care of yourself. I used to have a telephone company that we had.
Take some time for yourself.
Three phone companies. We had call centers in every one of them. And sometimes you would get that phone call. There's a disgruntled customer. They're mad at the world. And they would just let somebody have it. There's no fixing it. There's nothing that you can do. You just they just got to sit there and blow your hair back. And so we always had this deal of, we would take walks around the building and you could go walk around the building. If you make one lap, you make a lap. Sometimes you need to make 2, but you could do it. And then you'd come back in, plug back in, and, you'd be ready for your next call. And I remember every once in a while I'd see somebody walking and going, was it a tough one? This one's a 2-lap today, Jason.
Right,
but they just, and that what they would do is that exercise, just that little bit of exercise would get it out of their system. And that way they didn't have to internalize it. They could go out and, and we had a little route inside the building, that they would do if it was, the bad weather was bad. So it's okay to unplug for a minute and go do that. Go take a walk. Gosh, it's good. Taking a 10-minute walk's awesome for you anyway.
Totally.
And, doing those things that to take care of yourself,
Yeah.
make sure that, you're being around people that care about you, that you're getting your esteem. You're not going to get if you're getting your esteem from the people that you're, rejecting, you're not going to get esteemed. It's going to be people who are going to support you.
I noticed this as a lot in my professional life in business, and I also notice a lot in my professional life as an athlete as well, where I notice a lot of people put, especially in athletics, is really, really wild to me, and it made me feel bad sometimes. And I think I probably fell victim to it a few times when I was down on the dumps after like a long race or something like that. If it didn't go as planned, because you put months and months and months of preparation into it. But I think it can be damning sometimes when you put too much self-worth into the outcome. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great point.
I think that's something definitely to be aware of with any venture, whether it's the phone call to ask folks for money that you're raising for your mission, or you want to be a marathon runner, or you want to go out into business for yourself, and you take the plunge and you go do that. They're all very noble enterprises if you put the work in. Being careful, a cautionary tale, not to put so much self-worth, and I think that kind of comes back to not riding that roller coaster, that emotional roller coaster of ups and downs, because it can be exhausting. I think, long story
Let me
short.
ask you something. I want to ask you just a clarifying question, because I want to make sure that we're on the same page. Anybody
Yeah.
listening to this, they're hearing the same
Yeah.
thing. So when you say that, you don't put your self-worth into the outcome. For you, you're, former professional endurance athlete. So you're talking about the finish. Well, the same thing can be for the professional fundraiser.
Correct.
They're reaching out, they're making their calls, and, they're doing it, and they raised, for example, man, I just really knocked it out of the park, raised $20,000 today. And then you hear somebody else that did 200. Those are two different things. It'd be like me doing a triathlon and Trevor doing a triathlon.
Yeah.
They're not in the same zip code. Okay. They're just not. I've never been a professional athlete. I'm not ever going to be one. Completing one and then competing in one is two different things. But you got to understand, I talked to a executive director the other day, and she said, it's just frustrating to me sometimes, because I used to raise, $1.25 million to $1.5 million for the other organization I worked for every year. And now, it's really hard for me to do 500,000. I said, but why are you comparing?
It's the thief of
You're
joy.
at a different organization. It's different money. It's a different, because she said, I just thought it was going to be easy. I thought, oh, I'm going to go over here and hit my goals. It's going to be a breeze. And she goes, it's not. It's hard. It's harder than what it was before. Comparison is the thief of joy, I heard somebody say one time. So be really careful about that. What you're thinking, because you've got in your mind that, Sally Joe over at the other nonprofit down the street, that, you see her at the some different functions and stuff, and you think, man, she just got it made. She's just bringing all this money in. She has this great event, doing all this stuff. I guarantee you, Sally Joe is just as
Scared.
tired,
Yeah.
scared, frustrated, all the same stuff as you. And you know why we know that? Because everyone we talk to in this business feels the same way.
She's human.
Yeah. It's just human.
Yeah.
We touched 1,000 events last year, 1,000, and everybody has the same stuff. It doesn't matter. You've been doing it for 20 years or 2 months. It's all the same.
Yeah.
And once you understand that there's not any difference, then you can go out here and realize, I'm just making an invitation. It's not going to be about me.
Yeah.
And if it starts becoming about you, then you're telling the wrong story.
The outcome's so ephemeral. Like you were talking about the person that raises 200 grand, and then next door to them in the next cubicle over, they raise 20 grand. Well, that's one time. That's one, that's one outcome. That's one finish line. And they're so short lived that once you start falling in love with the process and you fall in love with the work, and of course we're presupposing that you're doing work that you really, really enjoy and fulfills you, and there's there's obviously so many different ways that we can look at success and how it's personified in different people's lives. But those outcomes are so ephemeral that there's times where if it goes really, really well, it's fleeting because it's over. Like you hit that crescendo and you hit the success and the cheers and the adulation and all these things, but then it's over. You know what I mean? There's a very interesting fleeting component to that where, okay, well, we got to go back to work the next day. When you can find yourself in a space where you fall in love with that process and just doing the work, the outcome will take care of itself. And once again, you're not riding that roller coaster and hitting those sharp peaks, either too high or too low, that set yourself up for, failure and more doubt and things like that, right? Or not, in exhaustion, not necessarily failure, right?
Consistency over time produces great rewards. It's
It
not.
trumps talent too. It trumps talent
Yeah,
too.
it does. It's consistency over time. I've been lifting weights for 15 years. I'm stronger now than I was 15 years ago. But it took 15 years of being consistent, going to the gym, lifting the weights, putting all the, it just takes time. And that consistency, then you're going to get better and you're going to get more adept at it. You're going to understand. And, those things are going to work on a regular basis whenever you're in the fundraising world is being consistent is better than having the best personality,
Yeah.
having the best story. We know some people that raise incredible amount of money and their mission's tough. It's not an easy one to sell. It's not like buying, baby formula and diapers. It is tough. And they raise a significant amount of money. And why are they so successful at doing it? Because they go to work on a regular, consistent basis.
They have a plan.
They've got a plan and they execute. And it's small bits, small steps all along the way. Every day they're just taking another tiny step, another tiny step. And so just be easy with yourself. Know that you're not going to do it all in a day.
Agreed.
You're not going to do it all in a week. You're not going to do it all in a month. It's going to take time. You say, well, my events in, 30 days and I got to do it. Well, maybe you need to augment it a little bit, and that doesn't mean you can't do it, but still you have to go to work on a regular basis.
You have to hear a lot of the same things come out of my mouth over and over and over again. So apologies, brother. Bailey, you too. But I have said for the longest time, I think it takes 3 years to get good at anything. So you better buckle in. You know what I mean? I think we want everything so quickly because how the world's working right now. Well, I also think I'm a big believer in obviously being kind to yourself, but self-care involves being patient with yourself and patient with those around you, because I am a big believer in the fact that it takes years to get good at anything. If you accept that and you put the work in, then, like I said, buckle up, but get ready for some happy days if you're willing to put that kind of time in.
Reach out and use the resources you have. We
Yeah.
give free coaching, and this is what we spend time doing. I talked to somebody who'd been doing this for 24 years. She's forgot more than I know about fundraising. And we were going through some of this stuff, and she said, Jason, she goes, I've been doing this for 24 years. I know this stuff, but I didn't know it, but I forgot.
Yeah.
And it's just this basics. I got to get, do that. And she goes, I'm so glad I made this call and set this time to do this. So take advantage of those things. And I'm not just talking about ours. I'm talking about just, if you have a chance to go read a book or listen to a podcast like this, or, get some coaching, talk to other peers, because we all get caught up like we think we've got it all down. And sometimes we don't.
No,
and it's
totally.
not that we don't have it. We just forgot. That's why we need coaches.
Yeah. Caring about yourself.
Greatest athletes on the planet have coaches.
Have the best coaches, as a matter of fact.
The best coaches, yeah.
Typically, they have the best coaches. Yeah, for a reason. Yeah, part of caring about yourself and investing in yourself is being willing to listen to others. This is like a prerequisite for when we hire within our company, is how coachable someone is. Anyone that asks me, and now the questions and the people that come into my life it's increasing exponentially as time goes on because of, what Jason and I, have kind of created together and with our team and things like that. So a lot of questions come at us now. And one of the most common things that I'll say this to my 19-year-old, almost 20-year-old daughter, when it comes to her starting a new job, I'll say, just be coach. Like, I'll tell her, keep your mouth shut. It's hard for us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard for us Nelsons. We're a loquacious bunch. But I'll say, honey, I'll say this to anybody that will listen if they ask, just maintain coachability. If you can't be coachable, things are moving so quickly and there's so much great information and there's so many good ideas out there. And how are you ever going to hear them if you don't maintain coachability? So part of investing in yourself is investing in others and realizing that's the relationships that you have and the people that are willing to coach you. That's a superpower. So I think it's part of investing in yourself, actually. So I think it's big. I think it's a real
Completely
big part
agree.
of self-care. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Good stuff.
All right, man.
Hey,
I appreciate it.
well, I
It was
care about
good.
myself, but I care about you too, brother. And I care about this audience and I care about everyone that's raising money. there's anything that we can do to help you, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We always say we give our best information and our time away for free. Go to hjfundraising.com, click on the free coaching button. If you want to connect with us about anything under the sun, you have access to Jason and I, and our time is free with no strings attached. If you got anything out of this episode or others, do us a favor, listen to it again, or share it with someone in your network, share it with a friend. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, leave us a comment. Let us know if you're vibing on any of the content, good, bad, or indifferent. We're ready for anything because we maintain coachability. So, and we like what we do. But thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, and we'll see you all next time.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you love our podcast, click the download button, rate us, and follow us on social media at HGA Fundraising. Get out there, start fundraising, and raise more money. See you next time.